Education, Laurie Kilmartin.
Okay, it's just you and me, Laurie.
Yeah.
Portland, no Kyle.
No chit chat before the podcast. I don't know how we're gonna fill an hour this morning.
Me neither. Yeah, let me make a note.
Wait.
Yeah.
I believe it's before 9 a.m. Like this is again, just thank you to our Patreons and our Max Fund supporters because we both rather be sleeping right now.
Right. You're doing vital work, and what you've done is you've gotten us to get up early and to punctually talk about stand-up comedy and our lives before the crack of dawn, comedy crack of dawn.
And we're both in Portland. We could be having a discussion in person, but instead we're in our own hotel rooms to each other from, I don't know, a couple yards away, I guess, right?
I assume we're moments from each other in real life. So, I like your robe. Nice work.
Thank you. It's well, I have the same robe at home, but I'm at the Pineapple Stay Hotel or Stay Pineapple.
Right.
And they have these awesome robes. So it makes me feel like I'm not on the road as much. I don't know why.
Okay. Right. Well, because you like a robe at home. Look, here's a salad from 1 o'clock in the morning from last night. I don't think I can eat that. Okay.
We're already showing off salads. We're not even a minute 6.
I'm supposed to play some Hero Instant today, but I don't think I can do it because I want to work on my set list.
Yeah.
The set's fine. It just needs to be the set list needs to be run through again. I need to make sure I'm doing everything in the right order. I'll be very happy after this is recorded, and I won't feel obligated to make sure I'm doing it in any particular order.
Right. But I will say, how many shows are you recording next week?
5.
Or the week after? 5. So, if it's driving you insane to go in a certain order, do you have to stay in that order? You want to have fun and let yourself be free too.
That's an excellent point. Remember stand-up comedy is fun? Remember that, Jackie? Oh yeah. This is a good point. This is an excellent point. I have to say, yeah.
Yeah, out of your 5 shows, you'll get one perfect. You'll do each chunk perfectly at least one time that week, right?
Right. And it's just important that I just do all the jokes, and they can be pulled from different shows. You are completely an entire. This actually frees me up a little bit.
Yeah, play your fucking game. Have a good day. Don't sit there and pour over joke order.
Oh, wait, don't encourage that.
I'm saying, and also I think you're better at listening to multiple takes and analyzing it. I would not give myself that same advice, knowing what I know about who I am after working on this album. But for you, I think it's not a burden to you, and so enjoy it. Enjoy your week here. Because when you're enjoying it, that's when you come up with your tags.
It's true. I did I changed one of the lines in. There was a joke that was getting sort of a and I changed the word, and it means exactly the same thing. But for some reason, nobody cares. It's literally, and it's not even the joke part. It's just more the setup part. It's instead of saying, granted, I'm gonna say it right now, and everyone listening is gonna go, yeah, that's a lot better. But instead of, I'm talking about condoms.
Yeah.
At one point.
Right.
A classic comedy premise, you guys.
You can talk about your dad because you're going to end on condoms. All right. It's a trade-off.
One of my favorite things my sister has ever said was, she was like, because there's 6 of us. She was like, the condom was invented early. They could have been using a condom. And I forget when this happened, but anytime in the last 40 years. But somebody said, well, then you wouldn't have been born because you're the 5th kid. She was like, No, I still would have been born, but I would have been born a Rockefeller, like I was meant to be born. And
Oh, she believes the soul finds the sperm.
in that case, she does. She was like, because now I have to, essentially I've always ended that sentence with,
Yeah.
now she has to make her own gajillion dollars. If she,
I think she's on her way.
she's fine. She's doing just fine.
I didn't realize, maybe I hadn't heard this in your set before. Your mom was 16 when she had the first of vacations.
When she got pregnant, yes.
Jesus, that
Mhm.
is so fucking young. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know it's young, but also
Yeah.
because my son is almost 15, it
Mhm.
really blows my mind that
My dad was 17.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So then he joined the Navy, and she started having babies, and and then 10 years later she had me, and she had 6 kids in 10 years. And and the only reason that came out last night was because I was so irritated with me losing the set list order that I was just like, here's some random information. just just gotta keep talking. Just gotta keep talking, throwing stuff at the
Well,
wall.
yeah, it's I mean, because you had young parents, you were able to have a grandma for a long time. Like my
Right.
son's father's parents were about the same age as your parents were when they started, even a little bit younger. But that means
What?
he has one grandmother who's dead, which is me, and another grandma who's like my age.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I don't know. There's two sides to that for the grandkids, I guess.
Right, right. I mean, and you're done. Like my dad was done having kids by the time he was 36,
Sure. Oh yeah.
right?
I still
And
had 5 more years before I had the one. I,
ex-
I I recommend waiting as long as possible, but
right, there's plenty of people on this planet. It's fine. You don't need to, and if it doesn't happen and you don't have kids, there's plenty to raise if you want to spend your time doing that. And there's also, yeah. Uh,
well, here's the thing: you don't have kids, but you lead a child's life. So we have to finish this podcast so you can go play your game with your friends. So yeah.
exactly. I have to say that what you were talking about, the dad chunk, it's another one of those giant chunks in my act that have that just it kind of needs another 2 years if it were going to be more than just a really kind of funny story with information and all these things. But I like, because you were talking about kind of changing the order of,
Just inside that one joke.
yeah, just inside that one joke, which is fine. And I think it's I think there's potential there. So
Can I tell the listeners my joke that I think you have so much dad material that your
yeah.
special should be named 45 jokes about my live dad.
Right.
We can have bookend our specials.
Right. It's I was gonna call it the album, I was gonna call it Altercation,
Oh.
because it's punny. But I took
Mhm.
out the Sky Club story and pushing the
Oh,
old man story. So
right.
there's not really any altercations in the set.
Well, guess what? You got a title for your next special already.
Right, if I want to do those again.
I did I got my uh album cover done.
Oh wow.
It was so okay. So it was what was it? Days don't mean anything. This is my first like week off, so I don't even know what day. Like I thought yesterday was Saturday. It just felt like a Saturday. But Tuesday, so Kim New Money, who's a great photographer in Los Angeles, a lot of comics user, and she's just really creative, and she's gonna climb up on the roof to shoot, I mean, she'll just do crazy stuff with the camera to try to get a cool shot. And Marlene Reiner, who did hair and makeup. My intention was I wanted to look like an old like 70s era country western album with like really big hair, makeup, the eyelashes, and
Wow. I can't wait to see that. Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of just put I bought two corsets in two sizes because I don't know anything about them. And
Right.
and it's too late to return them, by the way. So I if anyone needs a corset, let me know. XL and 2XL. And I just posted on Twitter, hey, I'm getting ready to shoot my album cover. What for a little Twitter attention, right? We all love our Twitter attention. So Cristela Alonso is like, oh my God, I used to put corsets on people professionally. And I was like, wait, excuse me, you can't just put them on? And then I tried to put it on. I was like, what the fuck? I can't, how do you do this?
Right.
And then it dawned on me I was going to need help. And Cristela, without me even asking, said, let me swing by your house and
help you put on some underwear. Yes.
So she came by, and then she stayed for 5 hours, and we were just joking. I had one of the best afternoons of my life. I had so much fun, and she actually had to stay to get me out of it too, because I couldn't have got myself out of it. It's so tight and it's so strung up. But man, I had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
That's so fun.
Marlene, she does makeup, and I mean, she's amazing. She put on, there were so many eyelashes. I can't even tell. They're all over the place. And the hair was insane. And then she even put red lipstick on me, which I think has never been done before, because I forget the wording of the Margaret Smith joke about red lipstick, but that's how I feel about red lipstick, where it really calls attention to yourself. And I've got a gummy smile. So like when I smile with red lipstick, it's red, and then there's a line of pink, and then teeth, and it's too much, right? So I always try to match my gums when it comes to lip color. Okay.
Ooh,
but I'm not smiling. Yeah. What?
You're not smiling in the shots?
No, I'm not. I'm smiling more deliberately and not, laughing or something like that, right?
Right, not thoroughly enjoying yourself, and so everyone gets to see all of your mouth.
Exactly. So, and then at the end, I jumped in the pool, and then I was just in the corset in the pool, and at one point, I was just face down like a dead body. I have no idea what we'll use. We just tried all this weird shit. Oh, and then
that's awesome.
It was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 p.m. And Kim's like, oh my God, the light in that corner. So I'm standing there, and the sun is setting and going right into my eyes. And she's like, wow, you know what? People with light eyes usually can't stand this. And I had just been at the ophthalmologist the day before, and he's like, make sure that you wear sunglasses, because UV rays will really damage your retinas, and you're getting older and you've been exposed to a lot of UV your entire life. And I'm like, should I be standing right now staring into the sun? But I was like, fuck it. It's, you know what? It's an album cover.
It's 10 minutes. Yeah. You're already jammed into a corset.
Hang in there.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's such a great photographer. It's you really have to just go with the flow, and just, there's so much in show business where you're like, well, that's what I look like.
I know.
You just spend a good portion of your time. It was one of I would say the only charming things about Ronald Reagan is that he could appreciate an impression of himself, because he knew what he sounded like.
Right.
He was like, oh, that's a great impression of me, he said at one point to somebody, not Rich Little, but probably Rich Little, like some impressionist, and it might have been SNL, and but I think we spend so much time just staring at our own faces and listening to our own voices that it just, you're like, you got to make peace with it. with what it
was cool. And corsets, by the way, amazing. I mean, like between the last 2 months of this breast surgery and now wearing a corset, I'm like, oh, it's all fucking faked. All of it.
Right.
When you see someone, they come in with that V, I'm talking a woman.
Yeah.
And she's in like a tight thing. It's all fake. Because when it's out, she pops out.
Right.
They're all like us. Stars are just like us.
They put their corset on with help, just like the rest of us. I will. I was actually thinking about that because I was just like, men who like boobs and who like different parts of a woman's body that have been sold to them by the advertising conglomerates. You're
Mhm.
like, you better like the natural, normal, the way people look without their clothes anyway, because they're not going to look like that picture because there's been Photoshop and there's been people being corseted into it, and there's all
Yeah.
these things. I hope you like this breast, because this
But
is the
only that
one.
one.
Right, this other one, don't
It's
touch
not, the other one's not your business.
it.
What if there
Right.
was a look where you just had a bra that held one breast and the other one was just
Was
hanging
just
out?
out. You're like,
What if that was
hey,
popular?
what if that was a thing? It was just like, this is au naturel. Uh, it's like, this is what society has created. This other breast is what nature has created.
Yeah, but women's fashion is hampered by the fact that you got to cover 30% of our bodies, basically, right?
Yeah.
Because of however, not that I would ever dress like that, but and why do I even care about fashion? I'm in a hotel room.
Right. Well, I can't possibly. So last night after the show, we wanted to get something to eat, and they just lifted the mask mandate in Portland, so the streets were crawling with
Yeah,
youth
yes.
that doesn't give a shit, and and the humanity. But so we stood in line for probably an hour. It was actually a nice hour. We get to
Sure.
talk to um
Alec Falcone and Kim or Katie. What's Katie's last name?
Win, Katie Win.
Win.
Yeah, Katie Win and Alex Falcone. I couldn't remember Alex's first name, and I was just gonna say Falcone like we were in junior high.
Yeah.
And they both did sets before the show last night. You know, they were on
Yeah.
the show last night, and they were both great. But and then we finally get the food, and it's too late. They've closed the outdoor seating,
Right.
and so they hadn't even gotten their food, and we're like, we have to go, we have to get up and do this before 9 a.m. And so how far was your how far, because we parted ways
We
to get,
did.
and how
Yes.
long did it take you to get back to the hotel?
About a minute. My hotel is very close by. Yeah, we went to there was a late night Vietnamese restaurant. I think it was called Luck Lock, I think. And then I ate crispy spring rolls at, I'm going to say 1 a.m., which was a terrible idea, but it felt delicious and wonderful going down.
And necessary.
Like in the hotel yesterday, I had to reserve a time to work out. And I called this morning and they're like, oh, we changed. Now there's no time reservation. So everything is like restaurants are open, but no one knows they're open. And I feel like we're here like 2 weeks too early to totally enjoy Portland,
Right.
Even the restaurant here at the hotel, it's not open yet, but they're planning to open it soon. The restaurant here at the Hotel Rose is really, it would be cool if I could.
The restaurant at my
eat in.
hotel is open.
Okay.
But I was like a 15-minute walk
Yeah.
from the thing. So I'm starting to walk through, and it's bar time, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't enjoy the possibility of criminals getting up in my face. Yeah.
Sure.
So I ran into one of those scooters,
Oh.
and it was the app that I downloaded, and I was like, well, maybe I'll do this. And I was like, this probably isn't particularly, I mean, I always think that I want so much more out of those scooters go so fast.
Yeah.
That I want to be wearing a helmet and knee pads and all these things. I wish I was
As a mother, I want you to be wearing a helmet and knee pads and elbow pads.
And elbow pads and all of it, because I'm 55 years old and I could break a hip. But I also wanted to get back, and so I was back at my hotel in in 5 minutes, because I was, so I would go as far as I remembered. And then I would stop, and I was not going, I did it incredibly cautiously. I'd be like, stop. And then I'd look around. So,
it should have taken you 2 minutes to get back, but it took you
5.
5.
Yeah, and I then I would look at my phone to make sure I knew where the hell I was, and but it was actually kind of nice because I really I was getting nervous about how many loose folk were on the streets,
Yeah,
and it was because I as much as I love humanity, I hate humanity. I hate
sure,
uh
sure.
bar time is my least favorite time to be out in the world.
Right, right, right.
It was even when I drank. I didn't like it. I was like, these none of these people have any booze, and we're all just wandering around. And so it was so
Yeah,
this
I do not like driving home from a late show for sure.
yeah.
That always worries me.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago in Austin, Texas, I actually it was only 3 blocks back to the hotel, but I had a door guy walk me home every night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, because it was bar time, second show,
Sure.
and the Creek in the Cave is in our super music bar kind of area. It was
Yeah,
so funny because next to the Creek in the Cave, there's or across the street or something. I don't know if you know this about Austin, Texas. They're a music town.
yeah, they
There's a lot
like
of
it.
they're them and their live music. You can't talk to anybody when 3 people don't tell you.
Well,
So
Jackie, and you love live music. You're addicted to it. So it's a match made in heaven.
I so hate live music. Oh my
Oh,
god,
you
it
hate
isn't.
I'm not, I don't go like there are people that religiously, and I've never, comics were always going to concerts. I'm like, you could have gone to an open mic that night. Why did you go see the Beatles? You could have done a set. I've never
Right.
understood it.
Right. I know Prince is dead now and you got to see him. But I don't think you understand that. There's a pizza place that's it's got a
They'll
pop-up
put you
open
right
there.
up. They'll put you right up.
You could have got 7 minutes. It wasn't even a fiver. So
I know we're joking, but I still feel like, that's the right choice. But, okay.
but it is beautiful that people get to see. I mean, people who love live music genuinely, they're like, no, it was the best experience. And I'm like, and what about your hearing, which is now over? Because it's so freaking loud. And
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah, we'll win in the long run, Jackie. Even though we
right.
enjoyed no concerts, we'll be able to hear ourselves talk about how we don't like music in 40
Right.
years.
Right. And I mean, and anyone who's listening to me saying, you sound like an old lady, I was born an old lady. I did not enjoy live music.
You were. I remember, like, I liked music, but I remember when talk radio started becoming more popular. Even though I didn't like the people doing it a lot of the time, I preferred that to music quite often.
Well, I think I'm just I'm a little lame when it comes to music. I will listen to I'll buy a new album probably once a year.
Yeah.
And maybe 2, but that's it. And I'll buy the whole album on iTunes or Amazon.
Oh, me too. You got to support the artists. We know how little they get paid on Spotify, Pandora. Like, it's nothing. It's really almost nothing.
And I also like getting a CD so I can rip it myself so that when we go to the new platform, I can also rip it again. So
that's too much work.
yeah. But for the most part, I am still listening to music that I liked in 1977, 1987, 1997.
Yeah.
The album that I bought 5 years ago, I still like that album,
Mm-hmm.
That I think I still have Common's first album. It's a great album. I haven't bought his new albums. He's disappointed because he would like my money now too.
Common is in his 60s now, and he would like you to supplement his Social Security. No, I usually, if I'm listening to NPR and I like the musician, I immediately try to download that album. So otherwise I'll forget. So
okay, yeah, good idea. Because that's
and then I'll listen to it once and maybe never again. I listen to an inordinate amount of Roseanne Cash. I don't know why. I'm just pulled to her, but whatever. Dead parents. We got a lot in common, me and Roseanne.
Hey, I think we're at like 28.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to figure out. I don't know how to tell Kyle because I didn't make any time. Like I just have sort of a half-assed time code going.
Yeah.
And But let's do some sort of break. He can look for it around
Kyle will
here.
have to listen to this podcast. Ha ha.
So there's a break.
We'll get rid of this stuff right here, and I'll read the first one, which is Green Chef. If that's okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so maybe you can clean that up, Kyle. Hold on. Talking points.
Did HelloFresh ever? I don't think they ever advertised on ours. I think it's only
but they bought it.
Yeah. Right. I think but we never advertised Green HelloFresh, which is this first.
They want us to address. If you've worked in the past. I see. We don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the green stuff isn't for us at all.
No. So you could start with. Just go intro. I just go intro.
Okay. All right, guys. One of our sponsors this week is one of my favorites. Who, you know what, honestly led to life-changing event in my family's life is family dinner, right? It's Green Chef. It's the #1 meal kit for eating well. It makes cooking easy. I cannot tell you how easy it makes cooking, with dinner options that work for your lifestyle, not the other way around. It lets you choose from a wide array of easy to follow lifestyles with plenty of options to choose from each week. And you can select organic ingredients. They come pre-measured. Everything's perfectly proportioned and almost 100% prepped. So you spend less time stressing out and measuring stuff and more time just enjoying delicious home cooked meals. I loved how easy it was, and my son and I could do it, and his father could join in, and we all sort of kind of worked on it together because none of us knows how to cook, but we didn't have to be good at it because it was right there. There were pictures. We just followed the pictures, and then we had a family dinner together, and it really made my son's life better to do that. So we continued that tradition, and I love Green Chef for even offering me the opportunity to try it, because I'm a total, microwave person, and anything I cook normally myself is just barely adequate, and I don't understand cooking, and Green Chef makes it super easy. Thank you, Green Chef. Oh, you know what? You can get so go to greenchefs.com/JackieLaurie100 and use the code JackieLaurie100 to get $100 off, including free shipping. That's greenchef.com/JackieLaurie100 and the code JackieLaurie100 for $100 off. It's so worth it.
That's awesome. And here's another great idea is that what you should know about the Jackie and Laurie Show is that it is also sponsored by BetterHelp, BetterHelp. So it's 2021. It's fully okay to talk about mental health. And that's why we're excited to be sponsored by BetterHelp, because BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions. They'll match you with a therapist in under 48 hours, and it's easy to change therapists if needed. You don't need a traumatic event to benefit from therapy. Matter of fact, if you're having a traumatic event, get faster than 48-hour help. But normal people go to therapy, and it is a great way to deal with anything going on in your life. There's anxiety, there's depression, there's stress, and these are all normal. Some of your life you're very happy and you're just going along, or it's both at the same time. And if you can bleed off some of that anxiety or depression or stress in therapy, it helps you manage your life, and there's more peace of mind and there's more serenity. So get some tools to cope and make life just a little bit easier. So I have had therapy, and it is great. It's one of my tools is the fact that learning to be honest with myself about actual feelings is an important part of everybody's life, and BetterHelp is actually more affordable than in-person therapy, but just as effective. I mean, and see if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Jackie and Laurie Show listeners, you get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. betterhelp.com/Jackie Laurie. So BetterHelp, HELP.com/Jackie Laurie.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's just make Katie the comic of the week this week because we're
Dude.
working with her.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, she's so funny. It's KT Nguyen, by the way. I looked it up. It's adorable. Katie Nguyen, NGU.
TIE.
Yeah, KT, like K as in Kelly, T as in Tom, and then Nugget, Nuggin, KT Nguyen.
Okay.
And her name is Katie Nguyen, and it's Vietnamese, so it's Nguyen. I believe it'll be in the notes for sure. But really smart and funny and silly and great comic. And so she's Portland comic, and she's working with us this week.
And she biked to the show last night.
Which,
I was like, that's cool. I love that. She showed up in a helmet.
Right, she had a helmet, and good for her. Yeah. So I would say that so what I want to do today, besides, so I may play my game today just because it'll be super fun to play it, but I do want to work on, I'm psyched that we're getting this sort of knocked out. I think, because this
our
day,
podcast.
Yeah, we're getting this podcast, and then I'm gonna go have lunch with a couple of people that I met on the Joko cruise.
Oh, cool.
Who were also working the Joko cruise and hanging out in Nerds and stuff. And their kid wants to do stand up, and I guess they're coming to the show tonight. And the kid's like 13 or 14, and
I'm devastated for them, but you know what? I'm gonna put on a good face.
Well, and I said to Kelly Sue, I was like, is he an old are they an old soul? And because I usually waited till 16. That's what that my nieces and nephews could come and see the show. At 16.
Yes. Right.
Because it's not that 13 they haven't heard all the swears. It just it's literally for me. I don't want at 13 me to be talking about sex, or and I don't talk about sex that much, but I don't want necessary, and I can't always control the other comics. In this case, we know that Katie's really good and you're really good, and none of it's going to be gross.
I have a gross joke, and I will do it.
And and I have a gross joke. I have a gross joke too, but
you do, and you got to do it. I mean, we're working adults, and so my son watches a lot of YouTube videos where it's it's young men talking, and of course they're just riffing on all this shit, and he doesn't know what they're saying. Like he doesn't get it. He knows it sounds like adult talk. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna watch the fact that you're getting laughs. And they're gonna, even if they don't exactly know what you're talking about, it'll just seem like, oh, that's that gross thing that grown-ups do.
Right. And I swear that when I open for Brian Regan and I see the 9-year-old in the audience, and I have watched that 9-year-old during Brian's set.
Yeah.
They don't get everything Brian's talking about because it's adult, even if it's not about sex or anything like that the federal, the FCC wants to talk about. It's still adult topics and adult twists on it. And so they don't necessarily get it, but they're psyched to be, they know that it's funny for some reason.
Yeah, they're excited to be there, and they're excited to cast a Paul on the show by sitting in the front row and staring at the comic. That's what I think. That's what I think of kids at shows when they sit in the front row. If I don't know you're there, I don't care.
You're right. And I don't want to know that you're there. Don't sit in the front row with your kid. If you want your kid to be an old soul, I might have told you this story before. I was featuring at Acme for Dana Gould. Another comic I will always feature for, were he to ever want that. But there was a kid in the audience who literally, and he was at that time, I think, doing a joke about how he called his 5-year-old daughter a cunt. And so the manager went up to the mother and son and the kid was like 7 or 8 years old and said, "You don't want this kid here. Can I just give you your money back right now?" And the mom was like, no, I think he really likes The Simpsons, and he really likes.
Oh my God, this is not The Simpsons.
And
Likes
so,
a show that's written by 30 of the greatest comedy writers, so you're gonna bring him to the local club. Oh, okay.
and so, he was like, okay, you're not getting a refund. And so they weren't in the front row, which is great because Acme knows to sit those people in the back.
Right.
And so after the show, she came up to me with the kid because I was, of course, selling merch.
Yeah.
And and she goes, I bet you think I'm a bad mom. And I said, no, I think your kid's an old soul. And if he wasn't, he is now. And I said,
Jackie, I need that lady to come up to my merch table because I will hand her a copy of Shitty Mom. And I'll be like, we're the same.
Exactly. It's fine. I mean, I don't ever feel for the kid. Because I assume the kid has heard all of the curse words in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone whose heart's sort of in the right place. Like if you're watching a super mean comic and there's a child there, I want to call social services, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But if it's Dana Gould, who's not a mean comic, he's just sometimes incredibly graphic, and and I don't have a problem with that.
Well, that's good. My son got his braces off this week. It's a
Oh,
big
wow.
week for the household.
Yeah.
And he has right now he's got it. They matched. He's missing this tooth, the front right tooth.
Okay.
But they created the space for it, and they're like, it was like a very intense 24-hour period where he could only be for less than 24 hours without a placeholder tooth while they made a retainer for him.
Okay.
So they made before he's had retainers, but he was like 6. So they were, the teeth were like, they looked bad and they didn't match, weren't the same size, but now they matched it. And I'm like, his teeth are so beautiful. And I'm so pissed my mom isn't here because she could have seen that and then died and would have died happy,
because his smile is perfect, or
they're just gorgeous. Like they were all, they were teeth, they were crazy, they were pointing in different directions, right?
Sure.
He was
I don't know.
braces even if his tooth wasn't missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then so he's got like double problems there, but now they're like they're lovely. And also, like he hasn't had 40 years of drinking coffee like me, so they're gleaming. They're gleaming.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but he's just going to get a sort of an implant? Will he get a full-on implant?
It's called the Maryland Bridge, and it kind of puts a tooth. It attaches to the back of the other teeth for a couple years until his jaw is completely grown, and then he gets a full implant that will last, I don't know, hopefully the rest of his life.
I get it. That makes sense.
It's such a fucking hassle. And, it's one of those things where if you can't afford all this shit, and this happens to you when you're 5, what are you going to do? You're going to have that the other tooth migrating over to the middle. I mean, that's what's happening with my kid. And then how do you fix that? How does, like dental care? Here's my pitch. Yeah. Dental care should be free. People need basic dental care. That's all.
Any number of things should be. And the thing, and the words free are so misleading because it's not like we all don't pay taxes.
Yeah, they should our
be
taxes
covered.
Should cover dental care.
All the different kinds of health things.
But everyone puts dental care in a separate, and same with eyes, in a separate category. It's incredibly important, even though it may just look visually important. You could live with a missing front tooth. But can you get a job when you've got one tooth in the center?
It will affect your interviews for sure. And
your self-esteem, your entire life. So whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And as long as we're making a pitch for our hippie skippy lefty agenda, everyone should get to live indoors if they want to as well. How about that?
Oh my
God.
About that?
And
I mean, the entire West Coast has a horrific housing problem. I mean, I haven't been back east
to the
in a
East
while.
Coast. Yeah. But the West Coast for sure.
There's tents everywhere, and gosh, I don't know how you pull yourself up from that. it's an impossible situation to extricate yourself from if you don't have help, I think.
So, like we on our thread, this was a couple of weeks ago. One of the women on the text thread said that she had a friend who was dating a billionaire, and so she was
Oh, right.
sitting on like some gold toilet, and I was like, first of all, don't tell me that out loud. Shh. And and second of all, hey, if you run into him, and I know it's a guy, if you could, if you run
She's
into him,
not dating a lesbian billionaire.
her friend is not dating a lesbian billionaire.
Right.
And I was like, ask him if he has $200 million because I could fix the Van Nuys housing problem with 200 million, and he would make it back in 6 months, and wouldn't even bother because there's all
200 mil just to fix a Van Nuys problem.
I think so, because there's on Van Nuys Boulevard, there is all of this. There's all of these storefronts that are empty, right? And
Right.
there's an old department store that closed probably 10 years ago, so it's kind of a ghost town. There's probably 4 blocks of Van Nuys that's a ghost town, and eventually they're going to build the railway through LA up to Van Nuys.
Oh, okay.
At which point it'll blow up and it'll have condos. It'll be like North Hollywood.
Dude,
Anyway,
you hang on to that house and you're gonna be a billionaire yourself.
yeah, and then maybe I can use $200 million to build. Essentially, you know what they did in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis has a terrible problem as well. But it's hard to be homeless in Minneapolis just because it's 14 below for 2 months a year.
Right.
And but the ground floor of all these new condos are retail situations, right? So in Van Nuys, because we can't go as high as Hong Kong, but it could be, 15 stories above
Mhm.
retail, and then just sort of single units, at least
Yes.
1 bedrooms where too many people could pack into those 1 bedrooms. And if it were I have a weird dream where Habitat for Humanity, the city of Los Angeles, and $200 million all join forces to create these small units that will be $450 a month.
Yeah, or
That
2 bedrooms for small families.
900 would be
Yeah.
fine. And the ground floor, and I want them to be doorman buildings, and I want them to have parking instituted in it, but with fast chargers for electric cars. And I want there to be solar panels on top of them. And but if Habitat for Humanity got involved, they make quality buildings. Do you know that
Yeah.
there's all these articles about how all the houses that Habitat for Humanity built survived the hurricanes in Florida?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. It was it's just like the Warner Brothers owns the studio that we used to tape the show at, right?
Right.
And so when I went in to get all my stuff after we had pulled out of the studio and we were taping at Largo, I went to my office to get my stuff out, and then our offices were attached to the studio where we taped the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, right? You were
Yeah.
kind of wondering
Yeah,
around there. So I went around and I wanted to look at the studio one last time. I think I told the story, and I walk in, it's just decimated, right? It's like a bomb that been dropped, right?
Yeah.
That was a studio. That was this. When I say the studio, that was Warner Brothers. That's how they dismantled everything that had been built. Their dressing rooms and all that stuff. But it just was so wasteful to me, because they built a little house inside this giant studio where we taped, and it included dressing rooms. It was a kitchen. There were bathrooms. Every dressing room had a bathroom. It was basically, if you had rolled that out and moved it to a patch of land, you could have hooked everything up and someone could live in it. A family could live in that. And the fact that it was just sort of demolished was so wasteful. I don't know, just so wasteful. It made me kind of sick.
Yeah, it feels incredibly wasteful because of, maybe they reuse that plumbing and maybe they reuse some of that stuff, but
I don't know.
But why reassemble it? Yeah.
Yeah, it just looked destroyed, and as from what I heard, someone else told me that the lumber was just like they throw it away. It's like at these prices.
Yeah, because all the lumber's much more expensive right now.
I don't know.
Yep. Hey, let's take one more break.
Okay.
And so
should we talk about the drama with LA comedy this week?
Oh my God. Or global comedy, Bill Cosby.
We can make it. Oh yeah, we can pull. A female comic had there a lot of the lineups are exclusively male,
right?
Or almost it's like 1 to 10, right? In Los Angeles, and it's really shocking because there's so many funny women comics here, and I'm only seeing the top of your head. Are you changing right now? Oh, okay. That's okay. I can only see your forehead if that's okay with you.
That's fine. I wanted to drink some water and I didn't want to do it on camera for some reason.
Wow, that's an unexpected shyness.
I'm very glamorous. Anyway, so yeah, the clubs and they keep posting the lineups, and there's one woman, like it's 1997 or none.
Yeah, or none. And and I don't know what people think, but female comics notice that shit.
Right. It's and people of color notice when there's none.
You know what? Guess what? I feel like the only people that don't notice are maybe white male comics who are like, oh, good, there's a regular lineup.
Right. And we knew that coming out of this pandemic that everybody was going to want to come up, and that there was going to be some muscle work being done by management and agents to get their comics in, to get them back, get their chops back. But the people that are booking it have to be aware. I mean, I know that they're getting pressure. They're getting pressure from all the agents and managers and stuff, but they have to make sure that there's something for everyone in the audience, because everyone's in the audience. It's not just 18 to 34-year-old white dudes.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not that, only women in the audience can enjoy female comics. It's just everyone can enjoy every act on the show. I can enjoy a white guy who's a good comic. I can enjoy
I've been forced to for 40 years.
we can all enjoy comics that don't look exactly like us.
Right.
And it was so surprising because we've been doing Zoom shows for over a year. The lineups on Zoom shows are at least half female,
Mm-hmm.
and I tweeted this, but I believe it's true. I think a lot of guy comics, what they love about stand-up is hooking up afterwards after the show with a female audience member who thought they were funny. And that's not happening with Zoom. And it was overwhelmingly, it seemed
so
like
they didn't want to bother. They didn't want to bother doing Zoom because they can't get to touch these not perfect boobs.
That sweet pussy. So I just kept seeing a lot of comics that were really interested in still doing comedy.
Yeah.
Because they love it. Right.
Yep.
And then when the lineups come back and it's like, oh, I haven't seen that guy on a Zoom show in a year. Why is that guy getting 4 spots this weekend? And not just you, me, all these other people I know. I kept seeing bits grow over Zoom and they get nothing.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. And I feel like a lot of, people in that part of comedy weren't, maybe paying attention to what was happening during the pandemic with comics and what everybody was doing. It was really surprising. And then so a comedian kind of just was like, I can't take it anymore. And wrote a vaguely worded tweet.
Mm-hmm.
And another comedian who likes to get specific went on a rant, a friend of ours. And then it's kind of leading to, maybe some changes.
Hopefully. Certainly some defensiveness.
At least, at least people will be noticing. Besides female comics, they're going to notice that lineup. Even if they don't give a shit, they're going to go, I don't give a fuck about these women. I'm putting these people up, these guys up only. But at least I think they weren't even thinking about it.
No, I think you're right that the people who didn't do stand up when we were in lockdown via they're getting something else out of stand up besides stand up. I think you are correct. And now that we're everyone's live again and doing things in person, whatever they weren't getting, they didn't think they would get out of Zoom. They need to be in person again, and so they're going for it. But I will also say that, I mean, while everyone can enjoy all the different comics and do, representation genuinely matters.
Yes.
You know, so it is a real reason to book all the different kinds of comics because, you know, it is really hard to do a very specific, you know, if it's four incredibly sort of empathetic white comics doing stuff about race and sex.
Right.
And then there is, you know, we're just essentially talking in a circle again. So and nobody's really addressing it from the other perspective. And you know, and sometimes, and this is, wow, I just want to weed off into this whole thing, but I would see these guys that I would feature for back in the 90s who would be kind of, I don't want to say fake feminists, but sort of fake feminists in the way that they'd be like, women are smarter than men. And then they would wait
yes,
for the big applause break, and they're like, okay, who's applauding? Maybe I can stick my penis in that person. And but I mean, it isn't real. The discussion of the injustice of anything if the person who is having the injustice handed to them doesn't get to have a place at the table. So
yes, a voice. Yeah.
And so I hope it does. I hope it does more than just make them super defensive and just not book the people who pipe up about it, which is always the fear, right?
Right. And I hope the people that complained and pointed out the problem are not penalized for pointing out the problem.
Exactly.
You know, it's weird. Like, we see a lot more stand-up than a lot of comedy bookers do. You know, a lot of them aren't out every single night at clubs. And so there's a lot of people where I'm like, why is this person not out?
Well,
is not
it makes you want to go, why are you the booker if you're not doing the job of seeing who's, you know, who's funny, you know?
Right.
I remember Lewis going to Just for Laughs every year, which, you know, it takes a crane to get there, right? It takes a decade to even, but he would book comics who had never, what he was, one year he was like, you know, there's 52 weeks. 2 weeks of those are holidays. I got to book local. So there's, you know, 50 weeks. I like to book at least 4 new comics a year.
Oh, that's cool.
Which pushes everyone else to a 1.5-year rotation. But
right.
You know, but it is interesting. It does make it more interesting.
I would never want the job of booker. It's a really difficult job. Even when we book our Jackie and Laurie shows, I always feel like, well, you and I take up 2 white lady spots. So I don't want to have, you know, I'm like, maybe
even though most of our friends are white ladies, middle-aged white ladies.
Well, yeah, but there's a ton of female comics we know that aren't. So it's like, well, we'll have 1 more spot for a white woman, you know, which, you know, it's hard to pick, right? And then we just want to make sure it's a show with a lot of broad interest, you know,
right, because it makes for more interesting comedy.
Yeah,
it just
I know.
Does.
I feel like, oh man, like, too bad they have to keep seeing us, but it's our fucking show. Sorry, we're the default. We're built into that show.
Right. I was just, it's so funny that you said that, because I was like, well, maybe one of us could just do, and I thought, no, who gets to pick?
No,
who doesn't get to
why
go
would
up?
I want to book a show that I'm not even going to be in my backyard? No, thanks.
Not it. So this week you go to Stir Crazy, right?
I'm at stir crazy this week right outside of Phoenix in Glendale, Arizona. Please come out. I'm super excited. I'm super vaxxed. I'm fucking hella vaxxed.
You are so vaxxed. Yep.
And I hope that you will be too. Please be vaxxed so we're not spreading, we're not inadvertently bringing some Delta plus back to our homes and our loved ones.
How disappointed is Delta Airlines that it's called the Delta variant?
I don't know. Delta's had a tough time.
They've had a hard year.
Well, recently in the last 2 weeks, including you, there have been people on Twitter just slamming the fuck out of Delta. And I don't know if I'm being shown that because I was tweeting about Delta Plus, but it just kept popping up like people were on hold for hours and etc.
Oh no! Oh, because everybody has decided that the horrible job that they had was actually a horrible job, and they're like, well, maybe I can hold out for a little longer and not go back to that horrible job, and so that's what's happening at restaurants and retail is that there's nobody the
customer service, I guess.
Yeah, there's 800,000 jobs that just got reintegrated into society, but it took an hour to get seated. There were tables available yesterday in Portland for lunch.
Oh, that, yeah.
But they were like, our staff is a third of what it was. The line we're down to one line cook, all these things. And so, but I will say, so the thing I complained about Delta was just that they rerouted my my flight from Austin to LAX. They went to Atlanta and then Atlanta to LAX. So
that is, believe me, you had a complaint. They had it coming.
They gave me 10,000 frequent flyer miles.
Okay. How close are you to your old status?
Oh, so far, because I was diamond. And
I know, Jackie, I'm aware.
One of Andy's friends is like, if you fly to Jakarta and just stay overnight. And then I was like, I want to go to Jakarta. I don't want to go for 11 hours. That's absolutely not what I want to do.
I don't want to die of a blood clot so I can get diamond status.
By the way, I found out that gig in Dubai is a 12-hour direct flight. It's not 24 hours. It's 12 hours. And I could do coach for 12 hours. And Emirates coach is supposed to be good. So I might do the gig.
You know what? Emirates, as I have flown business. I believe I've mentioned that as much as you went to your diamond class. Business was insanely amazing. So I do imagine that their coach is better than Delta's.
Normal coach. Certainly better. Every time I do one of those armed forces things, it's always United or American. Yeah. And I might as well be put into a carrying crate and taken off and brought to like the pound.
I do feel like all the airlines added extra rows and extra seats to their little planes. I was on Alaska. I'm taking Alaska this flight up and down, and it is incredibly crowded.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, flying out of Burbank was so easy. LAX was a nightmare, and before this, and then I started reading people's tweets about being at LAX. Someone said this can't be legal. One of our comic friends is like, this can't be legal, what they're doing.
What are they doing?
I don't know. Maybe the backup or whatever. I'm not really sure. I don't know, but it's like, wow, it sounds even worse than before. And so any way that you can figure, how much would it cost you to not have that experience and not say land from your long road trip, and now you have to get out of LAX to your home. So it doubles.
It is a project.
Journey.
Yes.
I don't know. And so, you can always investigate, depending on where you live, Orange County's airport, Long Beach, and then Burbank is just like the Delta or Alaska didn't have my pre number, and it didn't matter because there was 4 people in line at TSA.
You have a known traveler number.
I know. I got to get that on.
You got to get that on Alaska
right now because I'm flying out of Portland tomorrow, and it's not going to be so pretty.
Right. It'll be it's a little bigger airport. I fly into LAX, and I go in the afternoon, and we're driving straight up to Andy's mom's because the dog shakes like a whippet.
So you're going to Central California where they don't have firecrackers.
Fireworks.
Oh, good idea.